There's a lot in a name: identity, legacy, something worth remembering. But early in his life, this was not the case for the iconic great ape Donkey Kong, who, despite being at the head of a successful series of arcade games, had no story to call his own. And this would be the case for Nintendo's first star until a small group of British developers gave him a game deserving of the title Donkey Kong. In the late 1980s, brothers Tim and Chris Stamper co-founded a small developer called Rareware from the ashes of another company called Ultimate Play the Game. This new studio began life as a freelancer, working on dozens of titles for publishers like LJN, TradeWest, and Acclaim. And while nothing the company created during this period could be called a breakout hit, their output was still respectable. More importantly, however, it was during this period that the ambitious Stampers and their burgeoning studio cultivated a relationship with the company that would become their most important partner, Nintendo. Since their early days in the industry, the Stampers had been a pair of very technically gifted individuals. They were constantly reverse engineering electronics just to better understand how to make games with it. And they always kept a vigilant eye open for new trends before they hit the mainstream. And in the early 1990s, they set their sights on such an emerging new technology: 3D graphics. The pair discovered a small business called Silicon Graphics, which had developed a crude method for rendering three-dimensional models. Their interest peaked, the brothers took a huge gamble and invested heavily in the technology, purchasing 2 of their challenge machines for a modern equivalent of nearly $500,000. Unfortunately, none of the gaming consoles on the market in the early 1990s were actually able to truly render and display the models provided by the Silicon Graphics machines. But Rareware got creative with their new resource. Instead of futilely attempting to create 3D games for these consoles, they instead rendered out 3D animations frame by frame and converted them into 16-bit sprites usable by the current generation of hardware, a technique the company would later dub advanced computer modeling. The very first project Rare developed using this technology was a tech demo for a boxing game, which caught the eye of Tony Harmon, then product acquisitions and development manager at Nintendo of America. After visiting Rareware's offices in the summer of 1993 and seeing the game's pre-alpha build, Harmon believed that the company was on to something huge. With the backing of both Ginyo Takeda and Shigeru Miyamoto, Harmon convinced the higher-ups at Nintendo to invest in Rareware and its technology. Nintendo purchased 49% of the company from the Stamper brothers, elevating Rare from a third-party freelancer to an exclusive but still independent second-party partner. The boxing game was cancelled in favor of other projects, and Rare was given the opportunity to access Nintendo's vast library of IP, but only one really appealed to them. Despite the commercial success of the Donkey Kong arcade games, Kong as a character was never really established. With the notable exception of Donkey Kong Jr., the adventures in the arcade were more about the human protagonist than the titular great ape. Donkey Kong was a significant name and an invaluable character without any notable traits, and the Stampers took an interest in giving him his own world and history. Perhaps wishing to return to their roots, Nintendo agreed with their proposal, and what would become Donkey Kong Country began development in Rareware's offices. Using a redesign made for them by Miyamoto, the Stampers assembled a team of 12 and began weaving a new world for Donkey Kong to explore. By the end of development, over 20 of Rare's employees worked on Country, the largest team ever assembled for a single project by the company at that time. While both Stampers were heavily involved in development, Tim was solely credited as the director on the title. Designer Chris Sutherland was brought on board as a lead gameplay programmer, and Brendan Gunn was put in charge of the game's unique Silicon Graphics-driven aesthetic. He gave himself the title Technical Programmer. During development, the Stampers relayed all input and suggestions from Nintendo and Miyamoto personally, molding an environment of intimacy for the team. As a result, the team went above and beyond with the amount of effort that they put into the title. As Gunn explained, it was always a constant question of what could we do to take it to the next level. Sound designer David Wise attempted to record real guerrilla vocalizations for the sound design, and Gunn pushed himself to get the most out of the game's graphics, incorporating tons of parallax scrolling, overlaid graphics, and even lighting and weather changes mid-board. Level designer Greg Males painstakingly arranged each level so that a player could clear every obstacle without having to stop once. The designers even went out and studied real apes at a local zoo to try to get the Kongs to move more authentically. But interestingly enough, the maneuvering of Donkey Kong was based more on horses, as gorilla movements were unsuitable for fast-paced gameplay. Early in development, it was decided to keep Donkey Kong Country's user interface as clean as possible. As a result, the team elected against using traditional energy or health bars, and instead decided to keep such information tangible for the player. Each hit that they take and mistake that they make had to be visual. This took shape in the form of a second playable character, with each Kong only being able to take one hit. Originally, Rare intended for this second Kong to be a reimagining of Donkey Kong Jr., but Nintendo felt that the new direction strayed too far from the character's original design. So instead, the character became an entirely new one, dubbed Diddy Kong. Despite initially believing that one of Nintendo's Japanese composers would win the role because of the importance of the Donkey Kong IP, freelance musician David Wise crafted the music for Donkey Kong Country, with fellow composers Eveline Fisher and Robin Beanland also contributing to the soundtrack. Rareware enjoyed the themes Wise composed for the game so much that they actually brought him on board. He explained, "I guess someone thought that the music was suitable as they offered me a full-time position." Taking advantage of the Super Nintendo's more advanced hardware, Wise incorporated environmental sound effects into his tracks, oftentimes emulating percussion with unorthodox instruments. Much of Wise's music for Donkey Kong Country and its sequels is considered amongst the best in the industry. Bayou Boogie, Forrest Interlude, and Sticker Brush Symphony from Donkey Kong Country 2 in particular stand out. Aquatic Ambience, the music written for the water stages of Donkey Kong Country, is perhaps Wise's magnum opus, and remains one of the most recognizable and remixed pieces in the entire industry. Development on Donkey Kong Country moved forward at a solid pace, though the team did encounter a few roadblocks. The silicon graphics machines they were using to create the title's graphics could sometimes take days to render out models. Wise remembered the rendering of each 3D model would take ages. We'd work until 11 p.m. at night, go home, and in the morning the image might have finished rendering. It took that long for these huge machines to do it. What's more, they generated an incredible amount of heat. As Gunn recalled, "We had this massive air conditioning unit just to cool these SGI machines. We could all be suffering in the summer, but as long as that computer didn't overheat, it didn't matter." Additionally, after Rare completed the first playable version of the title, the management at Nintendo felt that it was too challenging. The team was directed to significantly reduce the difficulty and let Country's numerous hidden secrets provide the appeal to hardcore gamers. Donkey Kong Country was completed in late 1994 after just 18 months of development, and was released in time for Christmas of that year. The title was met with near universal critical acclaim and sold over 9 million units. The only title that surpassed the sales of Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo was Super Mario Land, a game that came bundled with the system. Country is credited for keeping the Super Nintendo relevant in an era when new systems were being released and Nintendo's next console was still years away. The title won numerous awards and internal praise from Nintendo themselves, who still use the Country version of the character in their games and marketing material. Rareware took a name without a face and gave it true identity, a world worth exploring and a series worth remembering, with a truly unique graphical direction and a highly regarded score, forging a new franchise that is worthy of sitting alongside Nintendo's other noble and storied licenses. And for that, the successes of Donkey Kong Country cannot be overstated. Heyo, what up? Lee here. As always, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more content from us here at The Theorists. We got great stuff coming up, I promise. So, Donkey Kong Country is a game that means a lot to me personally. It's actually the first video game that I have memories of ever playing, and I have a lot that I want to say about them as video games. So if you'd like to hear those thoughts, please head on over to Arcadia and check out my review of Donkey Kong Countries 1 and 2. It means so much to me if you did. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.